We have some news out of Nebraska. It seems as though Nebraska has canceled the home and home between them and Tennessee, um, scheduled to have been in 2026, 2027. And Nebraska is forced to pay $500,000 because of that to Tennessee because they decided to cancel the game. Chase, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, the tweet says it's from Brett McMurphy, and he mentioned, they originally scheduled this in '06. It was supposed to be played in 16-17, however, got pushed back to the next couple of years. 16-17, it looks like they overbooked. From what I saw is that they had Tennessee, and then they ended up booking Oregon instead, who's at that point in time in the Pac-12 guys. Shout out Pac-12. Um, so they overbooked. They went with Oregon instead, which is actually kind of funny. In 16-17, they went with Oregon. They still had to play Tennessee in 2016 at the Music City Bowl. So they still got a piece of Tennessee that year. But they got Tennessee pushed back, and I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I think this would have been a really fun matchup in the next couple of years. Definitely another year of Matt Rule and Dylan Raiola. I think they're going to get better this year. I don't think they're going to be some dominant team, but I think they're going to be an 8-9 win team this year, maybe even a double-digit win season for them. Matt Rule usually does really well in years 2 and 3 at his programs. So I was expecting a really good season from them. So think about 2026. You have a junior Dylan Raiola and a Matt Rule led offense playing either in Nebraska or in Tennessee. Like that would have been a really fun marquee game to watch because Tennessee's not going anywhere anytime soon with Josh Heupel, and they're probably going to be contenders year after year. So I'm a little disappointed just from a fan standpoint to watch this one. I mean, just think about that big fat red N and then that big ugly orange T up on your screen on a Saturday, hopefully in late September or something like that. Man, how cool that would have been to watch.
Yeah, I want to bring this up because this is just a rumor, but it seems like Tennessee's getting some money back from when they had to cancel a series against BYU. For those of you who don't remember, about 4 or 5 years ago, BYU came to Knoxville, beat Tennessee at home, and then Tennessee said, "You know what? We took the butt whooping once. We're not going all the way to BYU to get another butt whooping, so we're just going to cancel it." Now that rumor
Yeah.
was that they had to pay $2 million, which is incredible. That's a lot of money for a home and home, especially if you only cancel one of the games. Um, so that's kind of a rumor there. This pisses me off, and this pisses me off for actually really one reason. And I think it's because of the college football playoffs. And I think you're going to start seeing more and more of this where you won't see a Tennessee and Nebraska play, in a non-con game because what's the point? What's the benefit? If you look at the playoffs, and I'm sure we'll do a video on this too about the rumor of expanding to 14 or 16, which is being led by who? The Big Ten and the SEC. So why would they play each other? The goal is to get as many teams in as possible to get the most amount of TV revenue in return. And if you're playing, each other, if you're the conference, why would you want your two teams to play in the regular season to potentially kick one of them out? Now, I'm not saying that Nebraska is going to be in the playoff conversation in 2 years, but that's the belief. That's the
They're not
belief
far.
from the Big Ten. That's the belief from Nebraska themselves. I mean, they believe that they'll have a shot in 2 years to make the playoffs, and this could be the game that would kick them out. And that
And
pisses
I,
me off.
and I was going to state the same thing. I kind of was reading some of the comments under here, besides some of the obscene language that you see under the tweet. There was a guy that mentioned it as well. Like, this is because of the playoffs, because, you know, at the end of the day, you need to play your schedule. That's what you need to do. Your conference schedule, my bad. And then outside of that, man, you do not need to be scheduling anybody that is even a top 500 team in another conference. And most of those times, you're going to be falling into the group of five. Hey, let's give a little bit more cash to these guys to beat their brains in more so than play a Virginia Tech, a Wake Forest, or something that could possibly upset you outside Nebraska. And it's kind of surprising that Nebraska canceled more than Tennessee, because in a couple years, Tennessee, if they slip up and lose that game and you drop from fourth to 8th in the playoffs. It's pretty big, and I think Tennessee's a year in year out almost guaranteed playoff team, and a team like this could be very brutal to have to play. But I think that's again what you get, and so actually I see more of the pissed off side because this is just what college football is going to become, and eventually, if you don't do something with the college football playoff, whatever it is, we'll get to that another time. You either need you're probably going to see just a full conference slate to where if you're going to play 12 games, then it's going to be full 12 games of conference play like you saw in COVID year, or it's going to drop down to the 8 or 9 conference games that you have, and that'll be that. So, and you'll just eliminate playing group of fives, FCS, stuff like that.
Which I'm going to say this: I think scheduling home and home series is that far out is stupid anyway.
Well, yeah,
I mean, when they originally scheduled it in 2006, it was for 10 years in the future. Okay, the
yeah.
chances of having the same head coach, slim to none. The chances of
Uh-huh.
having even the same athletic director at a school like Nebraska or Tennessee is slim to none, where you
Okay.
don't have much success in, quite frankly, really any sport for a consistent period of time. They're gonna turn over athletic directors. So
Yeah.
what's the point? Is it for headlines? Because I know that this Alabama Florida State game that's going to be played this upcoming year was scheduled 10 years ago, and Nick Saban was a part of the team. Obviously, like it's so for the crowd that says that Nick Saban and all these big name coaches would go and schedule these smaller schools. What they were doing was that those were filler teams because you think back 10 years ago was 2015. Alabama was in the height of their dynasty. And you look 10 years before that was 2005. Right, that was right before Saban got there. And when Saban did get there and they were on the rise, a Florida State didn't want to play them in 2 years. They said, "You know what? Yeah, we'll wait 10, 15 and then we'll play you." So that was kind of the point, I think, of doing that, was to make sure you get something on the schedule. But I mean, who knows what the SEC is going to look like in 10 years? Florida, like if they scheduled one with Florida State again in 10 years, or Miami like they had, or like they have, I think, in the next coming years, they could be in the SEC and that would be a conference game.
Yeah. Well, and I think at max you should be able to um what's it, schedule about 5 years out. I think that's the max. Because look at the conference schedule. That comes out each year in March. So you don't even know, you know that on a yearly basis, right? You don't know
Mm-hmm.
that up to, oh, hey, Alabama's going to play South Carolina in 2027 in October. No, you don't know those things. And so for me personally, announce it all at one time kind of a thing. Like, hey, announce your conference schedule. And then about a month after that, fill in all your non-conference slate. That's what I would personally like to see is yearly, if you could, because I think that's what a lot of other sports do too. Like I think men's basketball primarily does like yearly
Mm-hmm.
fill in. So like non-conference schedule, like because I know being at North Alabama will call in and like call the guys like that summer, like, hey, we want to come play you guys. They're not going to go and say, hey, 10 years from now, let's play South Carolina. So I think it's a lot more for show than anything because I remember the big kind of talk about when Alabama put Wisconsin on a schedule 6, 7 years in advance or whatnot, or Oklahoma. And then guess what? You just mentioned it. Oklahoma became an
Mm-hmm.
SEC opponent like the year that they were supposed to play them. So you had to backslot somebody else. So and it's more for like, oh, big show, but at the same point, it doesn't really do anything for a little bit of hits, a little bit of clicks. I think it should be year in, year out basis. Because definitely if you're because and I'll give some slack to Saban and them as well. The big SEC coaches, we don't play anybody. Well, here we're playing Wisconsin in 2028. All right, cool. But what's better than that is year in year out saying, all right, let me go play somebody in the top 25 that was here last year instead of
Yeah.
let me get Wisconsin in 15 years, who is a good program overall, but in 15 years they could be 1-10 the year prior, one and
Yeah.
11. Give me somebody year in year out hey, Michigan just won the national championship last season. Let me play Michigan this upcoming year,
And I think the Alabama Florida State's a great example of that because this was scheduled 10 years ago in 2015. And who was winning national titles in 2015?
Right.
And
Right.
now they're coming off one of their worst seasons in program history. So now this game doesn't mean much. So
Yep.
that's a great point, and that's a direct example to this year. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, it's stupid. I'm pissed off that we're getting robbed of these games because we get our hopes up and then they just kill us. Like I know Alabama Ohio State has a home and home scheduled. Um, and I think they also in the same year have a home and home with Miami in the same year.
Yep.
You could look for one of those to be canceled. I can go ahead and tell you. But anyway, that's our thoughts over here at Three Bold Takes. Let us know down below. Are we kind of off the rails whenever it comes to these takes for scheduling? Do you guys like the non-cons scheduled far in advance? You get excited for them? Just put your thoughts down below. I'm Freddie, been joined by Chase, and we will see you guys in the next one.